Hola, soy yo, Vicki, otra vez, and welcome to the video. I hope you'll find it useful. Today, what I'm going to do is take reflexive verbs that we looked at in a previous video and look at them in a conversation practice. If you don't know anything about reflexive verbs, then you need to watch the other video about reflexive verbs so you can understand what they mean. Otherwise you might find this tutorial difficult. For those of you who like to follow it along with the book, I'm in Break the Language Barrier Level 2 and I am on page 12, and this is reflexive verbs conversation practice. So basically we've got some verbs up at the top here, some reflexive verbs. Lavarse, which is to wash oneself or to have a wash. Acostarse, to go to bed, or literally to put oneself to bed. Ponerse, which is to put on or to get, as in get angry, not to get a car, to get angry, to get tired, that sort of get. Enfadarse, this is to get angry. Cepillarse is to brush something on ourselves. So we wouldn't use this for brushing the floor, brushing the dog, brushing the cat. This is only to brush our own hair or our teeth. Okay, sentirse, that's to feel. Quitarse, to take off. Preocuparse, to worry. Ducharse, to shower or to have a shower. Llamarse, to be called or to call oneself. Vale, ponerse nervioso, so that is to get nervous or anxious. Enfermarse, so that is to get ill. Casarse, to get married. Bañarse, to have a bath or to bathe oneself. Can also be to bathe yourself in the sea or in the pool. Levantarse, which is literally to raise oneself up, and we use it for getting up, to say get up in Spanish. Okay, so that's the meanings of the verbs, and what you had to do was take those verbs and going into practice B, you're making a question and then answering it in Spanish. So I'm going to read the question out in English. So for those of you who don't have the book, you know what English question we're making. Then I'm going to translate it into Spanish, and then I'm going to answer it for me in Spanish. Obviously, your answers at home will be particular to you. But as I've always say, if you ever have anything if there's ever anything you don't understand on these videos and you want me to explain it, please drop me an email. I'll be happy to answer it. Or if there's anything you want me to check that you've got it right. Or also, if you have any suggestions for anything you would like to see explained in a YouTube video, please get in touch and I will do my best to clear that up for you. Okay, so number one, the question was, sorry, I'll just have a little drink of tea because it's quite thirsty work, all this talking. So number one, what do you call yourself? That was the question. We would probably more likely say, what's your name? But in Spanish, the way they say it is, what do you call yourself? And we would take the verb llamarse for that. And we would say, ¿Cómo te llamas? And I would answer in the first person, Me llamo Vicki. And then número dos, what time do you normally get up? Well, the verb to get up is levantarse. And that question would be, ¿A qué hora te levantas normalmente? So the reflexive pronoun is te, and the ending on the verb is as to represent you, te levantas. And the normalmente, actually, I've put it at the end there, but really it could go anywhere. So I would reply to that. Normalmente me levanto a las 6:30 porque tengo perros. Y número 3, what time do you normally go to bed? Well, the verb to go to bed is acostarse. So I would say, the question would be, ¿a qué hora normalmente te acuestas? Because acostarse is a diphthong. If you don't know about diphthongs, there's a video on my channel that explains about diphthongs. So, ¿a qué hora normalmente te acuestas? And I would say, normalmente me acuesto a las 10. Y número 4, do you prefer to shower or to bathe or have a bath? Now, this is an interesting one because there are actually 3 verbs in this question. Do you prefer, then shower and bathe. Now, the verb that we're conjugating is prefer because that's the verb that the person applies to. Do you prefer? So the verb to prefer is preferir. It also is a diphthong. It's an E changing to IE diphthong. So it'd be prefieres. Do you prefer? Ducharte. So to say the shall, we're using the infinitive of the verb because we've already put the person in the prefieres, but we do need to change the little pronoun. So, prefieres ducharte o bañarte? So again, the bañar, that will be in the infinitive, but with the pronoun changed on the end. So, the question would be, prefieres ducharte o bañarte? And I would answer, prefiero, I prefer, ducharme. ¿Vale? Prefiero ducharme. Y número 5, when do you get angry? Well, the verb to get angry is enfadarse. So we would say, cuando te enfadas. ¿Vale? Cuando te enfadas. And I would say, me enfado cuando veo animales sufriendo, ¿vale? Me enfado cuando veo animales sufriendo. Y why do you worry? Número 6. Why do you worry? So why, por qué, 2 words. So remember that why is porque 2 separate words, whereas because is still porque, but it's 1 word. So, porque, and the verb to worry is preocuparse. So that question would be, ¿por qué te preocupas? And I would say, me preocupo. So I've changed the te to me, the as to o. Me preocupo por mi hijo. Me preocupo por mi hijo. I worry about my son. I think we all do that, don't we, our children? Y número 7, how do you feel today? So the verb to feel is sentirse. So the question, and it's an IR verb, so it'd be como te, and it's a diphthong. Como te sientes hoy? Yeah, how do you feel today? Como te sientes hoy? And I would say, me siento muy bien hoy. Gracias. Vale, número 8. When do you become nervous? Sorry, more tea. So that will be that we're going to use ponerse nervioso, or for me it would be nerviosa. Cuando te pones nerviosa? And I would say, me pongo, I get nerviosa, anxious or nervous, en aviones. Y número 9. Do you take off your shoes in the house? Vale. So to take off is quitarse. So it will be te quitas. That's do you take off, just in those two words. Remember, it's always shorter in Spanish. Te quitas los zapatos en la casa? Notice that although in English we're saying your shoes, and you could say tus zapatos, but in Spanish we don't tend to personalize things, especially when it's using a reflexive verb, because if I'm saying to you, te quitas los zapatos en la casa, which obviously it's your shoes. I'm not going to say, do you take off his shoes in the house or her shoes? So we would generally in Spanish be more likely to say los zapatos than tus zapatos. So, te quitas los zapatos en la casa, and I would say, sí, siempre me quito los zapatos en la casa. Y número 10, do you get ill often? So, to get ill is enfermarse. So, do you get ill would be te enfermas. Do you get ill? Often is a menudo, and these adverbs of frequency, how often we do things, is explained in another tutorial. So if you're not sure of things like that, if you've just come into watching these videos and you're not sure of things like always, never, sometimes, often, things like that, they're explained on another tutorial that you'll be able to find in the video list if you're interested in learning about those. Okay, so te enfermas a menudo, and I would say dedos cruzados, no me enfermo a menudo. Okay, número 11. How many times a day do you brush your teeth? Well, the verb to brush is cepillarse. That's in the list there, number 13 up at the top, if you've got the book. So, cepillarse is the verb to brush, or brush oneself, brush something on oneself. So, the question would be, ¿cuántas veces? How many times? So, not tiempos. Tiempo is a period of time. Vez is how many times you do something, and they're feminine. So, ¿cuántas veces? Por día or al día, either of those. Te cepillas los dientes. As I explained before, you could say tus dientes, because in English we'd say your teeth. But the thing is, in English, we really have to personalize things because we don't have reflexive verbs. And as I just explained, because you're saying te cepillas, it's obviously your teeth. So, ¿cuántas veces al día te cepillas los dientes? And I would say, me cepillo los dientes 2 o 3 veces al día. Y número 12. Where do people get married in Spain? Well, there's 2 ways we can say this. We can either use personas and say, which is plural, third person plural, donde se casan las personas en España. Or we can use gente, which probably more likely for a Spanish person would use gente. But the difficulty my students always have with gente is remembering that it's singular and feminine. So it would be donde se casa la gente en España. And I would answer that la gente o las personas se casa o se casan, depending on which one you use, en el ayuntamiento o en la iglesia. Y número 13, do you wash your hair every day? So this is lavarse. Again, we wouldn't say your hair, we'd say the hair. So te, the verb is lavarse. Te lavas, do you wash? El pelo, your hair. Now, either todos los días or my own personal favorite because it's so much easier, cada día. So, te lavas el pelo cada día? And I would say, no me lavo el pelo cada día. And the last one, número 14, number 14, what clothes do you put on in the winter? So, ¿qué ropa? Or you can use ropa singularly or plurally. So it could be ¿qué ropa or qué ropas? Then do you put on? So we're using ponerse. Te pones. ¿Qué ropa te pones en el invierno? ¿Vale? And I would say, en el invierno me pongo pantalones y un jersey, por ejemplo. So, muy bien. Vale. Now, one thing I just want to mention there, which sort of did come up, these little pronouns, the me, te, se, nos, os, se, generally they go in front, as you've probably noticed as we've gone through the questions. So, you know, when do you get angry? Cuando te Cuando te enfadas, I have a total mental block then. See, so it's not just you, I get them too. So it's perfectly human. So, cuando te enfadas. So the te goes in front, the pronoun goes in front of the main verb, the enfadar verb. The only time it can go on the end of the verb is like with the example number 4. Do you prefer to shower or to bathe? So because we're using more than one verb there, and the shower and the bathe are the infinitives, we can put the pronouns on the end there. So it's there are actually 2 ways you could say that question. ¿Prefieres bañarte o ducharte? Or, because you've got prefieres as well, which is a conjugated verb, you could also put the te in front of the prefieres and say, ¿te prefieres duchar o bañar? Yeah, it has to go somewhere, but because you've got a choice there of if it's a conjugated verb, a verb that's been put into a tense or a person, the pronouns must come before the verb. And you'll see this when we go into other pronouns as we carry on with the tutorials. Always your pronoun goes in front of the verb. However, when you can put it on the end of the verb, if it's an infinitive, if it's a whole verb, and because in that particular question we had both, we've got prefieres and we've got to shower or to bathe, it can go either way. So you can either say te prefieres duchar o bañar, o prefieres ducharte o bañarte. So just worth bearing that in mind. That's the only one that you could do it there, because that's the only one that had infinitives in it. As we carry on, and certainly when we come to do the direct object pronouns, not wanting to frighten you, because direct object pronoun, in grammar, there's always these words that sound scary when you first hear them, but all a direct object pronoun is something like it, him, her, and I will explain it in the tutorial, so it's nothing to be frightened of, but it's just that when you come to those, you will see there as well the little pronouns. There are lots of different kinds of pronouns. These are reflexive pronouns, But these direct object pronouns that we'll be looking at later, they have to go in front of the verb as well if it's a conjugated verb. Or, as we'll see, they can go on the end if it's an infinitive. So, we're going to get the hang of all these big words in grammar. They're just complicated words that when you look at what they mean, they're actually not that complicated. Okay, so, muy bien, gracias. Thank you for watching. If you found this conversation practice useful on your journey with reflexive verbs, please give me the thumbs up. If you'd like to receive notification of future videos, please press subscribe down at the bottom. Thank you for all of you that have already done that. It's very much appreciated. As I say, if you want to follow the tutorials through the books are the Break the Language Barrier series. We're currently in level 2 on this video. They're by Vicki Riley, and they're available on any Amazon site, so .com, .es, .co.uk. They're available on all of them, and they have explanations in English. They have an answer key included, and obviously the tutorials can help coach you through it, and there is audio available as well. If that's something you'd be interested in to put on in the car or just to listen when you're doing the washing up. Ok, vale, ya está. So, muchas gracias y hasta la próxima, como siempre. Adiós.